The waterfall is surrounded by lush green valley.
But also ensure that artisanal miners are no longer subjected to the volatility in gold prices that occurs in the absence of credible off-takers.
We expect that close to 250,000 jobs would be created for improved gold mining operations. Improved mining operation could lead to the generation of over $500 million United States dollars annually in royalties and taxes. These developments will also help in improving our foreign reserves by enabling the Central Bank of Nigeria to increase the amount of gold in its reserves.
And given the expected gains from increased gold mining operations to the Nigerian economy, the Buhari presidency is reassuring the nation that the government will continue to do its very best towards promoting policies and programs that will engender economic growth and job creation.
Presently, we had to take this gold that's been aggregated out of the country for refinement. The ministry has licensed 2 private sector participators in gold refinery.
For those who feel that the only way they analyze Nigeria is to say, oh, what is the price of crude? They will now begin to see that at this time when the price of crude is low and the price of gold is rising, that the Nigerian economy remains strong, Nigerian economy remains resilient to withstand the exogenous shock that we see around us today.
And I believe this is an initiative that will see us do more individually and collectively to boost gold production.
I would say it's not yet mission accomplished, but with its vision established, we know where we're going, and we have started the journey, and we're going at a very fast speed, and I hope that this will translate into a better life.
The contributions of the mining subsector to the economy rose from 0.03% in 2012 to 0.8% at the moment due to the financial intervention by the Buhari administration. And with the artisanal gold mining development initiative, Nigeria's economic well-being can only be enhanced. From the State House, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
Let's look at bilateral ties. President Muhammadu Buhari has described as highly beneficial and worthy of sustaining the strong bonds of friendship between Nigeria and Pakistan, characterized by extensive military-to-military engagement. This was at the virtual farewell meeting with the outgoing Pakistani High Commissioner to Nigeria, General Waqar Kingravi. Again, State House correspondent Adamu Sambo has that story.
Good afternoon, Mr. President.
President Muhammadu Buhari described Nigeria-Pakistani relationship as not only wide but far-reaching. He singled out the area of military cooperation between the two countries, describing it as mutually beneficial. He particularly appreciated the Pakistani military training of the Nigerian army. The president commended the outgoing envoy for strengthening the relations in the area of economic cooperation. Ambassador Kingravi had thanked President Buhari and indeed Nigerians for what he called the fruitful, enjoyable and educative tour of Nigeria. He pledged his country's willingness to provide further military support to combat insurgency as well as promote all other causes dear to the country. From the State House, Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala said if elected Director General of the World Trade Organization, she would ensure that the United States remains in the fold of the global trade body, rejuvenated and to be the organization that needs to be for the 21st century. Haman Jabani monitored the media conference where Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala addressed on her vision and candidature for the Director General of the World Trade Organization.
8 candidates have been nominated by their respective governments for the post of WTO Director General. They are Jocelyn to succeed incumbent Director General Roberto Avizendo, who has announced he will step down on 31st August 2020. Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala is among the 3 Africans seeking to hold the position. She spoke on issues ranging from trade implications of COVID-19, challenges of micro and small and medium enterprises, e-commerce, and fostering relationships among member countries. She said that trade is important for the 21st century. It is important for prosperity. It is important for resilience. It is important for sustainable growth. And the WTO is at the right heart of this. Therefore, we want to rejuvenate and reform the WTO to be the organization that it needs to be for the 21st century.
I'm qualified to lead, and I have all the attributes. WTO needs leadership, and it needs someone able to bring a bundle of qualities: political ability, an ability to reach decision makers, international contacts, I have that, managerial capabilities from my long years in a multilateral organization like the World Bank, the ability to forge consensus and to negotiate a reformer. I have a reputation established as a strong reformer, both at the World Bank and also in my country. So I'm a doer. You know, I'm solutions-oriented and pragmatic. So I bring together the bundle of qualities and the leadership acumen that you need to lead this. So I would hope that if selected from the African continent, it should be me.
Analysts believe that the organization needs to regain credibility at a time when international trade is not a priority of many economies. The World Trade Organization, WTO, established in 1995, is the only global international organization dealing with the rules of trade between nations. Hamman Jabani, NTA News.
To other issues, the United Kingdom High Court has reserved judgment on the PNID case brought before it by the Nigerian government, seeking to set aside the enforcement of a $9.6 billion arbitration awarded against it in favor of Process and Industrial Development Limited, a briefcase company registered in British Virgin Island. Nigeria's lawyer Mark Howard had made a case of fraud and described the deal as a sham from the outset. He said a gas supply purchase agreement under which PNID was to build gas processing facilities in Cross River State and the government was to supply wet gas up to 400 million standard cubic feet per day that will be processed to generate electricity was a grand scheme conceived by an Irish-Nigerian government officials to defraud the country. PNID, however, claimed that the businessman, Michael Quinn, working with top Nigerian government officials to defraud the country, alleged that Nigeria has uncovered previously unknown payments to Verat Tega, a daughter of Director of Legal Services at the Petroleum Ministry, Grace Tega. Let's look at the economy. As part of the process to revamp the non-oil sector in the economy, the Nigerian Institute of Soil Science and the Nigerian National Accreditation System signed a memorandum of understanding in Abuja. The MOU also targets how best to improve the economy through soil development. Omenka Amarachuku reports.
Nigeria's revenue has constantly come from two sources of oil and non-oil sector. Oil has historically been the most significant contributor to the budget finance of the nation. With the dwindling price of oil in the international market, Nigerian Institute of Soil Science and National Accreditation Service have come together to see on how best to promote sustainable management of soil resources for protection, conservation, and sustainable productivity.
We are working together to ensure that all personnel involved in soil-related matters, our own case soil scientists, are qualified to practice that profession. Because the soil scientists are the ones that make, just like doctors that recommend drugs for patients, we recommend soil treatment so that the soils will support the crops to produce nutritious food.
It is hoped that with this endorsement between the two bodies, attaining food security through improved agricultural practices in Nigeria is underway. In Abuja, Omenka Machuku, NTA News.
Joining me in the studio for in-depth analysis into the Memorandum of Understanding to the quality culture in Nigeria's economy is the Director General of Nigerian National Accreditation Service, Mr. Celestine Okanya. Thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Okanya.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, now when we talk about the Memorandum of Understanding today that Nigeria National Accreditation System signed with the Nigerian Institute of Soil Science, what is the significance of this?
The MOU that we signed, that NINAS and National Institute for Soil Science signed, is significant to our development because every operation of the National Institute for Soil Science require their compliance to international standard. And this includes the process through which they certify or license their soil scientists, or the process through which they generate data and information that is applied for policy making or for commercial use by the farmers or those investors in agriculture. Those processes all require some compliance with the international standard. Also, you might know that fertilizers and every other thing that is applied directly to the soil is supposed to be certified or inspected for safety of our environment and the soil by the Institute of Soil Science. That process is also requires our own accreditation. So NINAS is signing the MOU to ensure that all the processes of National Institute for Soil Science complies with the international requirements, international standards. That is significant.
Okay, so how would this contribute to the economy?
This particular relationship will contribute a lot to the economy because, like you already said, we are diversifying our economy, and one place that Nigeria have turned to is the soil, because most of the agricultural thing that we do, especially the crop farming, depends on the soil. So if we have a well-functioning National Institute for Soil Science that provides a well-managed data and information that farmers use, we'll have more yield in our agriculture. We have a better soil that is well preserved by avoiding some dangerous chemicals to the soil, and we have better fertilizers that are fit for particular soil. So that services from National Institute for Soil Science is very important to our yield as a country that depends to some extent on agriculture. Okay. And if we do well in agriculture, we'll have more money to deal with from non-oil sector.
Definitely. But what are the core role of NINAS in terms of a national quality infrastructure? Do we have a national quality policy approved?
Yeah, well, I'll answer the last one. The national quality policy is already validated since November 14th of 2019. The Minister for Industry, Trade and Investment, I am aware, is working very hard now to get it approved by the Federal Executive Council. So we might be hearing a good news on that very soon. Then on the role of NINAS on quality infrastructure is very simple. Ours is to ensure that every conformity assessment body, and that means laboratories, certification bodies, inspection bodies that operate within Nigerian economy, that all of them are competent and they are impartial in their dealings with the producers or consumers. So our role is to attest to their competence and impartiality. That's what we call accreditation. And this is very important because this is what builds the confidence of our trading partners from other countries to accept our goods and services.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Celestine Okanya. Thank you for your contribution.
Thank you.
All right. Anything certainly that would improve the economy is what we hope for. But let's take a break. We'll be back shortly. Thanks for being with us. Let's look at COVID-19 global update. The Africa Centers for Disease Control calls for local manufacturing of COVID-19 vaccine, and Spain honors coronavirus victims in memorial ceremony. Joyce Ometu is standing by for details.
The spread of COVID-19 in Nigeria continues to rise as cases near 35,000. The Nigeria Center for Disease Control on Wednesday said 643 new cases and 6 deaths were recorded, having carried out a total daily test of 12,707 samples across the country. The agency noted that the new cases were reported from 19 states and the Federal Capital Territory, taking Nigeria's total number of infections from the virus to 34,259, with 13,999 recoveries and 760 deaths. As the first wave of the coronavirus pandemic continues across Africa, the head of the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has said the intellectual property from any effective vaccine should be made available for local manufacturing and swifter distribution. John Nkengason also told reporters that Africa's 1.3 billion people have all kinds of differences in genetic makeup and calls for a full participation in vaccine trials. The health agency says Africa now has 648,445 cases, 14,052 fatalities, and 337,037 recoveries. In the meantime, Spain's King Felipe has led a ceremony in Madrid to honor those who have died in the COVID-19 pandemic in the country. The memorial in the capital, Madrid, was attended by some 400 guests, which included high-ranking EU officials and the head of the World Health Organization. Several relatives of victims and health workers were also in attendance. And statistics published by Worldometer as at 6 p.m. local time says there are now 13,787,827 COVID-19 cases worldwide, with 588,635 mortalities. And that's it from here. Many thanks for watching. I am Joyce Ometu.
Thanks, Joyce. The Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 has revealed that 63% of alcohol-based sanitizers in Abuja do not have NAFDAC registration numbers. This it attributes to the outcome of a survey conducted by the Nigerian Institute for Pharmaceutical Research and Development. This was made public during its daily media briefing in Abuja. The task force warns against the manufacture and sale of substandard goods, which could further endanger lives amidst the pandemic.
And communicate with Nigerians in the most effective ways the risk associated with contracting the virus. We shall also remind you always to comply with the non-pharmaceutical measures put in place. Let me emphasize that the reasons for extending phase 2 of the eased lockdown are still present and that we need to change our behavior.
As the numbers continue to rise in this phase of community transmission, Nigeria, like most other countries, has hardly any other tool left than to focus on the value of non-pharmaceutical measures for prevention.
Chairman of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 and Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, appealed to some dignitaries who breach laid-down protocols at the airports to lead by example. He sympathized with the medical profession over the death of Professor Lawson following complications of COVID-19, as well as families of all victims. To legislation now. The Senate says the new management of the Federal Inland Revenue Service is brazen up with reforms needed to expand Nigeria's revenue base. President of the Senate, Ahmad Lawan, gave the commendation during the passage of the service's 2020 budget of 168 billion naira. National Assembly correspondent Ignatius Umpo reports.
The passage of the 2020 budget of the Federal Inland Revenue Service was accompanied by the approval of 100 billion naira one-off special intervention fund to assist the Federal Inland Revenue Service to, among other projects, complete its head office within 12 months and 6 training schools.
Henceforth, the budget of FIRS for any financial year must be approved by the Senate by the end of October of the preceding year. This is to ensure strict compliance with the January to December financial year.
Consequently, all below-the-line accounts accruing to the service in this year must be approved by the National Assembly.
The observation of the Senate Committee on Finance that the management of the current Federal Inland Revenue Service is making giant strides in innovation was applauded by the Parliament.
The new executive chairman, upon assumption of duties, has been able to come up with various initiatives to block the leakages that hitherto existed within the system.
I think that the FIRS, under the new leadership, is a focused leadership and a level-headed leadership.
When you look at the gas income projection, last year nothing was realized, but this year, he is saying he will be able to make about 420-something billion this year. So I think it's a tall order, but I think he will be able to make it.
And I also want to commend the new management of the Federal Inland Revenue Service for the efforts they are making to reform the service for better, effective, and more efficient performance.
The Senate recommended the digitization of all processes in the administration tracks in Federal Inland Revenue Service. From the National Assembly, Ignatius Nkwo, NTA News.
Still staying with the legislature, the House of Representatives has issued a warrant of arrest on the acting managing director of the Niger Delta Development Commission, Professor Daniel Ponde, and members of the Interim Management Committee. This is in response to his walking out on the investigative hearing by the House Committee on NDDC. The committee is investigating allegations of financial malfeasance at the NDDC. Minutes into the commencement of the hearing, the acting managing director staged a walkout.
We are not comfortable with the chairman of this committee presiding over a matter in which he is an accused party.
If you have anything against the chairman of this committee, there are many ways you can report your matter. You either go to EFCC or ICPC or police, SSS, go to them, complain whatever you want to complain against the chairman, but the rules of the parliament, nobody will come and dictate to us here that the chairman cannot sit, because this is not the matter in question. This is not the matter before us now.
Let's talk sports. COVID-19 continues to affect global sports. Tamara Ebiwe brings us more on Sports Update.
The Nigeria Archery Federation is working towards a hitch-free return to competitive activities following a possible return of individual and non-contact sports, as stipulated by the Ministry of Youth and Sports Development amid COVID-19 pandemic.
Most of the federations are on top of the game before the lockdown. So I don't think it would be strange for any federation to, if they say resume today, we will not be ready. All we're asking for is, the enabling environment has to be there. Facilities that are required, equipment that are required to ensure that we adhere strictly to the rules, of the COVID-19 preventive measures that we need to take.
Meanwhile, the International Committee of Sports for the Deaf, ICSD, has postponed all its 2020 games to 2021 and 2022 due to COVID-19 concerns. More than 14 events are affected, including the World Deaf Athletics Championships, World Deaf Beach Volleyball Championships, World Deaf Football Championships, World Deaf Golf Championships, World Deaf Judo Championships, as well as World Deaf Taekwondo Championships. ICSD assures member associations on staging the affected events in the new rescheduled dates between 2021 and 2022. Tamara Ebiwe, NTA News.
All right, we're done with the news. Thank you very much for your company. I'm Ruth Aguele. But just before we go, we'll leave you with this message.